I'm the vice chairman of the football club and a director of the club, and I've been with the club since day one.
And how did you get involved in the club?
I was involved with Enfield Football Club and had been a supporter of that club since about 1976. My latter years with that club, I was the secretary and had a great deal to do with the running of that club. When things all went wrong there, the supporters had already formed a trust, a supporters society, and when the deal to take over the football club, Enfield Football Club, didn't come off, they asked me whether I would move across and form this new club, knowing, as I did, how that would happen, how to administer that, what documents we needed. I thought that was the best thing to do for football in the borough, and so I made that decision and formed the club.
So you've been a fan since 1976. How did you become a fan of Enfield?
Well, I'd always been a football fan. My dad used to take me when I was a very small boy, and so I'd grown up with football. I stopped playing when I was in my early 20s because I had an illness and I wasn't very good, basically, and just used to go and watch. In the 70s, football violence, the hooliganism, was really quite rife, and it became, although I loved the game, it sometimes became very unpleasant going to a game. I lived in Tottenham then, and when we moved to Enfield, I thought, well, why not go and watch the local team? So we moved in on a Thursday, I remember, and I was humping boxes around and covered in dust and all that kind of stuff. And sort of Saturday lunchtime, I thought, I'm going to go to a game. I've had enough. I need a break. So I looked in the paper, and Enfield were at home to Harwich and Parkston, FA Cup first round. So I got my jacket and went down, had a drink, and watched the game, and never looked back from there.
And so you've always loved football. You said your dad loved football.
Oh, my dad was a Geordie, so it's sort of in the blood, in the DNA.
And so when you think about football, do you think about family times? Does it make you think of your father and think of...
Sometimes it does. Yeah, sometimes it does. I've got a lot of very happy memories from football, and it's taught me a lot over the years about all kinds of different things.
What level did you play at?
Oh, just in the park.
Oh, okay.
I was hopeless.
Okay. And then you worked within the football...
No, not at that. No, at that time I didn't. I was worked for the post office for most of my working life. I took early retirement from the post office when I was 53, and I was secretary at Enfield Football Club then, so that was already took up a lot of my time, and I had the opportunity to go and work at the Middlesex County Football Association, so I did. And that's when I got into working full time in the sport, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up at the FA.
So it's from your experience at working as Enfield secretary that got you working for the big football...
Yes, working for the FA.
That's cool. Of all the hats that you've worn, the hat now that you're wearing, what's it like? Tell me about the role. Do you enjoy it?
Well, the reason I took it on was this project. I didn't want to be the chairman because I think you need a younger person. You need somebody with more energy than I've got to be the chairman. Perhaps with more modern ideas than I have to be the chairman. But when this project kicks off, whoever was going to lead it, and I was in pole position because I'd retired and I knew lots of people in football and what have you. But I needed something, rather than just say director, I thought vice chairman, that sounded like I had a bit of weight within the club. So I was elected to be the vice chairman, and I think it did help. That was 4 years ago now, I suppose, I don't know, not really thought about it. It's a while ago. And now we're nearly through, well, we are through the project really, we're just doing dotting I's and crossing T's.
Tell me about some of your most vivid memories and why they're vivid.
Well, that's a big question.
You're only allowed to choose a maximum 2.
Well, my earliest memory is when I was a young lad, I don't know, 8 or 9 I suppose, and my local team in those days was Enfield Town, sadly no longer with us. And I can't remember how much it was to get in. I think it was 3 old pence, something like that, and there used to be a little group of us and we never had enough money between us for everybody to pay to get in. So we'd all go down to Edgware Town. It didn't matter what the weather was, one of us would have a big overcoat. One of us would pay to get in, and then the others would all walk round behind where the tea hut was. We'd put the big coat over the fence, which was a bit jagged at the top, and then we'd all climb in. And I'm pretty sure they all knew we did it, but you know.
was there like food that you remember you associate with it as well, or like smells?
Food.
Going
Oh,
to
wagon wheels.
What was it?
Wagon wheels.
Oh.
Wagon wheels, yeah, we used to get a wagon wheel.
When you were young?
Yeah. They seemed enormous. I'm sure they've got smaller. But I think being at St James's Park, Newcastle, when they won the old Fairs Cup in 1968, I think it was, that was quite a feeling to hear. Because my dad always used to talk about the ground being packed and the war cry, as he called it, of the Bladen races. And to be inside, absolutely rammed, creaking at the seams, at St James's Park, with 60,000 voices, singing that song as they stormed to a win, that was quite something. That was quite something.
It's not just a sport, it's a lifestyle, it's a friendships, it's all those things. Would you say that that's been your experience?
Yes, very much so. So football gives me all sorts of things. It gives me the challenges that I've faced with this project and with running a football club. But it gives me a social life. I mean, I've known a lot of the people at this club I've known for 30 years. They're long old friends of mine, long-standing friends of mine. It's the other thing that I think football does, which I think perhaps society in general has lost, is it brings the age groups together, brings the generations together. Apprenticeships and what have you are a thing of the past, but at a football club, on a match day, you get everybody from a 2-year-old to an 82-year-old all together, and it also cuts across class as well. You get everybody from a chairman of a company to, I don't know, a dustman. It doesn't matter. The common thing that brings everyone together is the game and the club. And you can see everybody sitting down together, talking about their common interest.
Your boys love football as well. Do you make them, or do they just naturally love football?
No, I didn't make them. I took them from an early stage, from an early time in their lives. But I thought that the role of a parent was to open doors for children and let them look inside. And if they liked it, you encourage them. If they didn't like it, you close that door and you open another one. And I opened the door to football for both of them. The older one, Paul, has been fanatical about the game, in love with the game, since he was about 4. Scott, the younger one, not quite so much. He's perhaps got a bit more equilibrium in his life.
Perspective.
But he does love the game.
But is it lovely? It must be very special for you being able to share this with your sons, the same way as you shared it with your dad.
Absolutely, and now my grandchildren are beginning to come. Although they're not really that interested yet, but hopefully they will be one day. They're more interested in the drink and the crisps.
That's how you get them hooked.
Yeah.
Where do you see the club in 5 years?
Oh, I think at the moment we are at a critical point. We've moved from a situation where we had a small club really at Brimsdown. Our overheads were very limited, and we were playing in a division where our financial clout was bigger than not all but most of the clubs. So it was reasonable to expect that we would be successful at that level. We've moved here, so now we have overheads that we never had before. We've moved up a division. as far as we can understand it, our budgets now are amongst the smallest in the division. Well, that creates a challenge. We had some very good attendances last season. This coming season, I think it will be interesting to see what happens to those attendances. We've been here a year now, people have got used to it. If the attendances stay as they are and go up, if we can improve the team a bit and the attendances go up, I think the future's bright. If we can't improve the team and the attendances start to go down, I think we could be relegated. Not this, I mean, in the next 5 years. I think that could happen. I hope that it won't. I believe that it won't. I believe that we've every hurdle we've reached, we've climbed over it. This is the biggest hurdle we've had. I think we will climb over it. But at the moment, it's, you know, we're sort of straddling the top and wobbling backwards and forwards, I think.
How can people get involved in the club?
It's very easy. All they've got to do is come along and say, I like football, how can I help? That's all they've got to do. And there's loads that they can do. Everything from, on the commercial side, if they feel that they have a talent in that, whatever their talent is, IT, working with some of the youngsters that we have here, with the youth supporters, cleaning, stewarding on a match day, which is just really at our level just a question of putting a jacket on, and if somebody asks you a question, being able to answer it. It's not difficult. So there's, you name it, and we need it, and it's dead easy to get involved.
And anyone of any age could just come along?
Anyone of any age, it doesn't matter. What it does require is commitment, because it's no good coming once and then not coming for 6 weeks and then coming again. You've got to be here pretty much every game. That's the commitment.
So can you tell me a bit about your role, this project, the stadium, everything around us, and what your role has been with that?
Okay. Well, I was fortunate enough to have the time to do it because I'm retired. And it was also very fortunate, I think, that I had worked at the Football Association. I knew the people there, knew the people at the Football Foundation, who are the grant-giving agency, or the main one, knew the people at the County Football Association, because I'd worked there as well. We were also fortunate in having brilliant support from the borough, from both parties, and through Tim Harrison, who's an officer. Wonderful support. And he and I suppose, led the project. Me from the football club point of view, and him from the council's point of view. I worked firstly with a chap called Frank Cartwright, but that didn't work out, and Frank left the project. And for most of the project, I was working with Keith Wortley, who's a fellow director at the club, and also retired, and had worked for most of his life with buildings as a structural engineer. So he knew the language of the builders and I knew the language of the funders. So it was a pretty good partnership. And what we had to do was, first of all, to design what we've got here, to think about the logistics of moving our property from Brimsdown to here, to talk to the funders about what we wanted to do, to program everything. So we had a project plan. And we used to have regular meetings at Dave and Gilly Farrington's house of our volunteers, because I felt it was very important. Any project, you need to communicate with people. So there was no good me and Keith knowing what was going on. We had to communicate with the people that were giving their time, and we told them stuff that nobody else knew because they were part of our team. And they kept that confidence, which I thought was brilliant. And so we were all on board with it. And it was a lot of hard work, but it was always going to happen because the council had committed to this, spent a lot of money. All we had to do was to deliver our part of the bargain. Now, our part of the bargain was in order for the council to get about £500,000 from the Football Foundation, they had to devise a football development plan for out there on the playing fields. Because what the Football Foundation are buying is a growth in participation and sustaining the game. Their vehicle for doing much of that is our club. We promised, as part of that plan, that we would become, in pretty short order, an FA Charter Standard community club, which is the highest award that a club can achieve. We've done that. I led on that as well because I knew how to do it, and we've had, again, great support from the youth section and from the girls section, the ladies section. So now we're a community club, and the youth section have been working very hard to grow the number of teams, and I think next season we're going to have 4 new teams at the younger age groups. The girls section continues to grow. We're starting at the other end of the spectrum, a veterans team next season. And so the club will continue to grow. And I don't know exactly how many teams we'll have next year, but it could be in the region of 30. So we're becoming a big club, and that will grow year on year, which is what we promised to do, and that's what the Football Foundation wanted to see, and that's what we've done. So we've helped the council, and the council helped us massively.